Back in 1926, led by Bill Ingram, the Navy midshipmen would finish the season 9-0-1, tied for the best record in all of college football. And like UCF, they would claim a national championship without actually playing in the game. In 2015, for the first time in school history, they would join the American Athletic Conference. They would have initial success in the conference, but over the last 3 years, they've been unable to surpass 4 wins. Sick of the losing, Navy decided it was time to part ways with their head coach, and they would be looking to coach Ben Dover to lead them back to the promised land. Dover would be given 5 seasons to turn the program around and return it to glory, and he would also need to complete these challenges to keep his job. With Dover only having 5 seasons to turn the program around and Navy being one of the worst teams in the game, he wouldn't be given any recruiting restrictions from the NCAA. Comment down below any other team you want me to rebuild in the future. It was now time for Ben to take over the team, and of course this rebuild would take place on Heisman difficulty, and Dover would be in charge of turning this roster around and making it into a championship contender. As mentioned, there would be no recruiting restrictions throughout the entirety of this rebuild, so Ben Dover was able to recruit any player that he absolutely wanted to, and that would help lead to him finding what he was hoping would be his future quarterback in Gene Green, and he made sure to give him money instantaneously. It'd be tough getting people to commit to the program, as program tradition was the only good thing about this school, so Dover was surprised when there were a decent amount of good recruits that wanted to come to the team. Navy would start the rebuild off as a 68 overall, and they'd be playing North Texas in their first game, and this Navy team wasn't that good, so it was no surprise that North Texas was driving down the field right away, but thankfully the midshipmen were able to clutch up on 3rd down getting a stop, but that wouldn't matter as North Texas would get the ball right back and they'd go multiple possessions early in the game, and it was finally time to get a look at our offense as it was being led by junior quarterback Ty Lavatai, and late in the second quarter he was finally getting the ball moving down the field and he made a great pass to Umbarger on the right side, and our defense was able to get a stop, so with only a minute 30 left we're looking to drive down the field yet again. Lavatai didn't have much weakness as he was a well-rounded quarterback, and one of the best things about him was his ability to scramble outside of the pocket. Thankfully before the half we were able to tie it up by getting a field goal, and fast forwarding to late in the fourth quarter, both offenses have been struggling up until this point, but Croy Myers was able to make a big play, and Navy was looking good until Ty made a terrible throw over the middle resulting in an interception, and somehow the North Texas defender was able to break out of multiple tackles while still maintaining balance on his feet, and he was able to take it all the way down to the end zone for a touchdown. Coach Dover would be forced to make risky calls, and he told Ty to make sure to throw down the field every single play, and Lavatai was running the offense to perfection as he was getting the ball past midfield and somehow made this amazing throw. The risky play calling had been working up until this point, so Ben Dover made sure to go for it on the 2-point conversion, and Lavatai was able to get the conversion. Now on 4th and 16 it was up to North Texas to get into field goal range, and they were unable to do that, and it was great to see Ben get his first win of his career as the midshipmen would go on to win by 1 point. The momentum from the win would be killed immediately as the Cardinals destroyed us along with Rutgers, but thankfully there were a lot of high talented recruits that wanted to come to the program, they just hadn't committed yet. I forgot to mention that I'd only be able to play 3 games in each season, not including conference championships or bowl games, so this game against Air Force is huge as the entire future of our program was coming to this game. One of Dover's goals was to make sure that he had a winning record against military schools, so it wasn't good when Air Force got the first touchdown, and our offense had been struggling throughout the first half until Lavatai was able to roll out to the left side, somehow completing this pass across his body, getting a huge play, and with the receiving core being so bad, Lavatai had to make things happen on his legs more often than we wanted to, but he was able to do that the entire way down the field answering back against Air Force. Lavatai was proving that he could also be a pocket passer making good throws on the left side, but let's not forget that his legs were his #1 part of his game right now as he scrambled for another touchdown. The Air Force offense had been struggling ever since their first touchdown, and late in the fourth quarter, Navy was running out the ball and Mikael Haywood was able to take a simple run to the right side, getting a touchdown. That would be a huge win over a military opponent, as Dover would now be 1-0 against military schools. After that game, there were an insane amount of recruits that committed to the program, and 4-star wide receiver Jake Peterson would follow suit shortly after. After that Air Force game, we'd go on to lose 7 straight games, and Gene Green still hadn't committed to the program, but we were still leading on him. I knew that if we had any chance of beating Army that I'd have to step in and play this game. Dover wasn't upset that his team was 2-9 as he expected them to play like this throughout the first season, as he was in it for the long haul as he still had 4 more seasons after this year to get the team going in the right direction. And Lavatai was running the offense to extreme perfection on the first drive. No matter the overall schedule that Navy had, if they would beat Army in this game, this would be a winning season as this was the most important game every single year. After that stop on defense, Lavatai was able to do what he does best in scrambling out to the left side, getting another touchdown. Army would cut the lead down to 7 points, and with only 20 seconds left, the offense needed to get moved down the field really quick. And of course, this drive wouldn't end any other way as Lavatai would roll out to the right side, getting another score. Late in the fourth quarter, we'd find ourselves up by 7 points looking to run out the rest of the clock, and after getting a first down here, we were able to do that as we ended the season with a huge win, and Dover was able to go up 2-0 against military schools. Unfortunately for Dover, he wasn't able to complete any challenges in the first season, and he didn't really care about that as he wanted to see some progress going into year number 2. There would be a decent amount of players leaving the program, but nothing crazy, and thankfully a freshman from Boston College would transfer to the program. During signing day, there was still a lot of recruits that Ben Dover wanted to get, so he made sure to spread the wealth accordingly, and that would help him get some more recruits as he was able to pull in the 7th best class in the nation. And along with that, he was able to get his quarterback of the future, Gene Green, to commit as well. This is what the team looked like after training results, and they didn't look much better than they did last year. And based on the good play from Lavatai last season, Coach Dover would be redshirting Gene Green for his freshman year. He would also make sure to redshirt a lot of the other freshmen that weren't going to be getting playing time this year. And going into year number 2, the overall for the team jumped up by 7, getting them to 75. This would be beneficial as the team would actually get a win without me playing against Southern Miss. And 4-star cornerback Mike Rogers Rutgers would commit after that game. We had the Rutgers next, and of course we lost to them yet again, and we'd followed up with another terrible loss to Memphis. We had been losing a lot of games, but we had another 4-star defensive end commit to our program, along with a 4-star wide receiver in Gary Holt. We'd be jumping into our first game of the season against Air Force, and Lavatai was a senior, so this would be his last year to prove to the NFL scouts that he's worthy of a draft pick. We'd finally start seeing some new names on the field as Lavatai would find his receiver Chris Moore on the right side making a great play, and we'd also get our first look at 5-star running back Ryan Sapp. Both teams struggled going into halftime as we were up 9-6. Dover was excited about the future of this program as Ryan Sapp continued to be making big plays, and he was a little slow though, but Lavatai didn't have that same weakness as he was able to route to the right side, of course getting another scrambling touchdown. Our defense had been playing amazing this entire game as they held Air Force to only 6 points, and Lavatai was able to roll to the right side again, getting another touchdown. And from there, Dover was able to get a 10-point win, extending his record to 3-0 against military schools. Navy would follow it up next week with the loss to Houston, but it was time for another rivalry game against SMU. Each time we jumped into a game, Lavatai was able to run every aspect of the offense, whether it be in the read option game or if he was passing the ball, but of course his scrambling was the best aspect of him. But throughout the first half of the season, Chris Moore was becoming one of his favorite targets as he found him multiple times. Lavatai also made great strides in his throwing accuracy and his throwing strength as he found Umbarger on the right side, and late in the fourth quarter the team was up by 21 points, getting a stop on 4th down, and from there the team would go on to cruise to a 17-point victory. There were a decent amount of recruits that had committed to the team, but there weren't a lot of 4-stars or 5-stars, and Navy would win one of their next 3 games, leading to their record being 4-5, and against USF they were able to get their win total to 5, but they would follow it up with a loss to Temple right after. Of course this would be the most important game of the season as it was against Army, but that wouldn't be the only reason I'd be playing this game, because if Navy won, they would be bowl eligible for the first time in several years, so it was definitely not good that the team had been struggling up to this point as they were down by 7 late in the third. But after that touchdown, our defense got a stop, which gave us a chance to finally take the lead for the first time in this game, and Ryan Sapp was able to get a huge play on 1st down, and later on that drive we ran the triple option to perfection as Ryan Sapp got the easiest touchdown of his life. Throughout the second half it seemed like it was all Navy's game as our defense had gotten several stops and our offense wasn't getting stopped each time they got the ball as Ryan Sapp would get another big play getting close to the end zone, and it seemed like the triple option was fooling Army every single time we stepped onto the field as we got another touchdown later that drive. We'd go on to get another big win against Army as we would end up dominating them, improving our record to 6-6. Somehow at a 6-6 record we would finish at second on our side of the conference, but Ben Dover wasn't worried about that as he had his first bowl game against Louisiana Tech. I'd love to say that this game was a back and forth showdown, but as you can see late in the fourth quarter the team was down by 24 points and Lavatai was finally able to get some good offensive production, getting Kent on the right side, and this touchdown at the very end of the game would only be for stats as Louisiana Tech would go on to destroy us in what would be a 25-point loss. With that loss, Dover was unfortunately not able to cross off anything on his goal list, but at least going into season 3 the team was finally moving in the right trajectory. There would be another wave of graduates at the end of the year along with our senior Ty Lavatai, but that didn't matter as signing day would net us some good players, and Navy would pull in the 11th best class in the nation. The team was still yet to have a player over 86 overall going into year number 3, and Navy's overall would only jump up by 4 as they were only up to a 79. With that, Navy was again expected to finish last in the conference, but we were looking to get things started off with the win as we were playing Hawaii in the first game, and Gene Green would get his first start and he was hosting a 94 speed, so Dover knew that the read option game was going to be amazing this year as it was rare for a quarterback to have that type of speed. Gene would play great throughout the first drive as he would get the team all the way down the field getting a touchdown, and the defense would hold the Rainbow Warriors to 3 in the next possession. This play shows how much of a cheat code Gene Green is as he was able to slip by a quarterback spy along with 3 other players getting a huge gain, and this block was able to set him up getting close to the 35-yard line, and even though he was tired on the very next play he was able to make a great throw to Chris Moore on the left side. After watching Lavatai last season, Green knew that scrambling was a huge aspect to a quarterback's game, and having a 5-star running back running the ball was a great addition. The team was up 21-10 late in the second quarter, and Gene Green got the offense all the way down the field yet again, scrambling out to the left side getting another score, and from there Gene would go on to dominate the rest of the game as Navy would put up 42 points in the first game of the season. There would be 3 decent recruits that would commit after that game, but of course Navy still wasn't good enough to beat teams with the likeness of Notre Dame. That didn't matter as 5-star athlete Mike Merville would commit shortly after. Like normal, Houston would end up beating us in week 5, and unfortunately we would suffer our first loss to a military school. We'd be hopping into the game against Cincinnati as it was crucial that we played this one due to a whole bunch of recruits coming to this game. It seemed like each year the only wins that Navy would get would be the games that we hopped into, so I knew that this rebuild was going to be extremely difficult, but with the weapons on offense this team was a lot more enjoyable to play with. The Bearcats would be held to 3 points in their opening possession, and with continuing to run the triple option to extreme perfection, Gene Green was able to roll out to the right side getting a huge play while outrunning a couple of defenders, getting close to what would have been a touchdown if he didn't get stopped by number 27. It didn't matter though as Gene was able to make a great throw on the left side to Danny Davis for a touchdown. We'd be up by 4 late in the second quarter, but the Cincinnati quarterback was able to make a great throw extending their lead, but Gene remained poised running the offense to extreme perfection as Mikael Haywood was able to get away getting a touchdown. From there the lead was maintained as Navy would go on to win by 7 points. We'd be hopping into the game next week against USF, and this game was extremely important as they were number 1 and we were number 2 in our side of the conference. If we were to win this game we'd have a great chance of playing in the conference championship, so it wasn't good that USF got on the board first, but Gene Green was getting us down the field, and only a couple plays later after that big play we were able to answer right back. Chris Moore was able to blow by his cornerback on the right side making it for an easy touchdown, and everything was going good until late in the first half half when Gene made a terrible read, and somehow USF got an 88-yard rushing touchdown to end the half. Following that interception, our team was starting to implode as we found ourselves down by multiple possessions late in the third quarter, and our team wasn't getting anything moving down the field until this Gene Green run. But that wouldn't matter as our offensive line wasn't giving Gene any favors as he got sacked here for giving up the football, and from there Navy would blow their championship hopes as they lost to USF by 7 points. It wouldn't matter because the very next week Temple would destroy us, but thankfully in the last week we were able to beat Army by 24. We would take a back seat from last season as we finished the year off 5-7, but this recruiting class is looking really good as there were 3 5-star athletes that committed to the program. But to this point, Dover still hadn't completed any challenges, and going into season number 4, he was looking to finally get some off the board. There would be more players leaving due to graduation, but nobody that was really important. And taking a look at the class this year, Navy would pull in the 3rd best class of the nation. That would finally allow Ben Dover to knock off one of his goals, and going into our 4th year, we finally had a player over 90 overall. The team desperately needed cornerbacks and middle linebackers, so that's all Dover would be looking for going into his last year of recruiting, and the team would end up making a significant jump as they were above 80 overall in every category. Even though the overall for the team was better, they would start off their first 3 games with 2 losses, including one to Air Force, bringing their military record to 5-2, and simulating to halfway through the season, Navy was sitting at a 2-5 record. This would lead to Navy being 5th in the conference at this point of the season, and Dover couldn't believe that the team was still so bad in year 4. With only 5 games left in the season, I still had 3 games yet to play, and I knew that I needed to jump in now because the team was looking drastically terrible. I don't know why the team had been performing so bad this entire season as they had a decent overall now and they had a good quarterback leading them, but as I mentioned earlier, it only seemed like the team would win when I would step into a game and Gene Green was able to roll it to the right side making a great throw, and he would almost mirror that exact same play in the next possession. He's rolled to the right side yet again making another amazing throw. Our defense and offense have been playing well throughout the first half, giving our team a multiple possession lead, and after scoring again, extending our lead to over 20 points in the second quarter, we were able to hold on to that lead in a dominating win against UCF. We would jump into our next game against USF looking to get some revenge on last season, but this game wouldn't matter that much as we were still sitting last in the conference. It also wouldn't be good that we found ourselves down by 14 points early on, but Gene Green was remaining poised in the pocket, and I knew that he had some great leadership qualities about him as he was moving our team down the field even when the times were tough. Gene was able to find Ryan Sapp coming out of the backfield for an easy touchdown here, and after our defense got a stop, he'd move the offense all the way down the field yet again, and on 1st and goal, Ryan Sapp was proving his worth by getting another touchdown. Our defense would finally give up a touchdown late in the second quarter, so our offense knew that they had to get a big play, and that's exactly what they were able to do as Danny Davis was able to get a huge one, getting close to the end zone, and only a couple plays later, the read option was working to perfection, getting us a touchdown. That score would remain the same going into the 4th quarter, and with less than 2 minutes left, we were finally able to change that. It would now be on the defense to get a stop, and on 4th and 10 with a minute left, we were able to do that, as the team would go on to a hard-fought victory and what would be a 14-point win against South Florida. It was now time to jump into the game against Temple, and fast forwarding into the 3rd quarter, the team would be up by 7 points until Gene Green was able to make an amazing throw to Sean Arnold. Temple would answer back, but Gene Green was continuing to make amazing throws as he found Chris Moore on the left side for another big play, and the team would go on to win 42-28. We now had 5 wins, but had to simulate our game against Army, which was unfortunate because we lost by 3. So going into our last season of the rebuild, Ben Dover still only had 1 goal that he completed up until this point. Unfortunately for season number 5, though, the footage corrupted and we would end up missing the first half of the season, and that's why in week number 9 we found ourselves with a 7-1 record and we were beating UCF 27-16 in a snow game. After this game, I'll explain how the season got to this point, but right now we need to focus on this one as Gene Green was continuing to run the offense to extreme perfection. Dover was looking to run out the rest of the clock as there was only a minute and a half left and the team was up by 3 points, and that first down would help us do just that as the team would go on to win by 3 points. As mentioned, we boasted a 7-1 record, so after that win against UCF, we ended up going up to 8-1, with our biggest win of the season being against number 7 Notre Dame, and our only blemish to this point being a loss against Charlotte. We'd also beat Air Force earlier this year, which allowed us to clinch a winning record against military schools, and at this point of the season, we were currently sitting at number 1 on our side of the conference. The team also made a great jump from last season as they were now a 90 overall. This simulated victory against South Florida would be extremely important as they were sitting behind us in the conference, and in case you're wondering, this is what the stats looked like thus far in the season. Gene Green had been putting up great numbers in the passing game and running game along with Ryan Sapp, while Sean Arnold was dominating on the receiving front. And going into our game against Temple, Navy was ranked 14th in the nation. With that loss to Charlotte earlier in the year, it was crucial that Navy would go on to win the rest of their games, as that would be the only way that they would find themselves in the college football playoffs as their overall schedule hadn't been that good this year. Gene was able to orchestrate a great drive in the 4th quarter leading to a go-ahead touchdown, and the momentum was back in our favor as the defense got a stop, and all we needed now is our offense to run out the rest of the clock, and to add insult to injury, Ryan Sapp decided to get a touchdown to end the game. From there, Temple would end up losing by 12 points, and with only 1 game left in the season, Navy was ranked 8th in the nation and needed some help from people losing in front of them. As always, it would be Army in our last game of the season, and Dover was hoping that this game would be a blowout as Army didn't have a good record and their overall was a lot lower than ours at this point of the season, so thankfully we were able to draw first blood by getting on the board first, and after our defense got a stop, Gene was somehow able to slip this throw to Sean Arnold for a touchdown. Army would answer back on their following drive, but Gene Green wasted no time in finding Chris Moore wide open, and his legs would do the rest as he would be able to go all the way down for a touchdown. Army was playing risky as they let the time expire and they needed one more play to try to get a touchdown, but they were unable to do that, and on our first drive of the second half, Gene Green was able to use his legs to extend the lead, and from there we were able to finish the season 11-1 following a dominating victory. We were sitting at 6th in the nation behind Arkansas State at number 5, and with them not playing a conference championship, I knew we were going to jump them, so all we needed now was UCLA or Auburn to lose their game. We wouldn't be focusing on that yet, as we still had to play our conference championship against Charlotte, and this game would be a revenge game for us, as Charlotte was the only team to beat us this entire season earlier in this year. But with there being a snowstorm, it was no surprise that the offenses were struggling. The momentum from us getting that touchdown at the end of the first half would continue into our first drive of this third quarter, as Gene Green was able to use his legs to get another score. And on third down, the Charlotte quarterback was trying to cut our lead in half as he was trying to get a touchdown, but he was unable to do that, getting stopped short. And from there, the offense would play more conservative, keeping the ball on the ground, trying to kill tons of time, and Gene Green was able to use his legs for another score. And from there, the team would go on to hold on to that victory, and Dover was finally able to cross conference championship off his goal list. Luckily for us, we were able to jump Arkansas State, and UCLA lost their conference championship game, so now we would find ourselves playing the number 1 team in the nation in Auburn in the first round of the playoffs. Navy was talented, but they weren't as talented as the top teams in the nation, so that's why Dover wanted to keep it on the ground, limiting the amount of mistakes that could be made. The Auburn defensive backs were better than all of our receivers, so we made sure to keep it on the ground even more, and Ryan Sapp was able to get the first score of the game on this triple option run, and he was able to do the exact same thing late in the first half as the team was able to go up 14 points. Auburn would drive down and get a field goal before halftime, and it seemed like they had been underestimating us to this point as they were able to finally get on the board, but the team was still looking really good as they were up by 4 points, but Gene made a terrible read in the triple option leading to a turnover, and Auburn would score on that possession, and all of a sudden our 14-point lead was now a 2-point deficit. Thankfully for us, we had one of the best players in the nation, and Gene Green on our side, and he was able to get us the lead back, but Auburn would take a chance and go for it on 4th and 6, which worked out for them as they were able to get it, and they were moving the ball down the field as they were in the red zone, and our defensive lineman was able to make a huge sack on 2nd down, and everything would come down to this 4th down play as they ran a halfback draw getting stopped, which allowed Dover to win his first bowl game of his career and knock off another one of his goals. Both the lower seeds would win in the semifinals, meaning that we were playing Texas A&M for the college football championship, and based on the first 4 seasons of this rebuild, I can't believe that we were actually in this point, as it had been extremely difficult to rebuild this team even with no recruiting restrictions. If there were restrictions that we had at the beginning of this rebuild, we would have never got players like Gene Green and Ryan Sapp, and they were proving their worth, as they were proving their worth each and every game that we played with them, and Ryan Sapp was able to take a halfback counter for the first touchdown of the game. The team was looking good after our defense was able to get a stop on A&M's first possession, but somehow this turned into an interception, and Texas A&M was able to go down and tie up the game after that. Dover wasn't upset at Gene after that interception because it was the tight end's fault, and Green was able to roll to the right side, somehow sneaking this pass to Ryan Sapp on the right side for a touchdown, and Sapp continued proving his worth throughout the entirety of the first half as he seemed to be making a big play every single time that he touched the ball, and up by 1 with 30 seconds left in the first half, Green was able to roll to the right side, and on the bounce back route he found his receiver wide open for a touchdown, and thankfully the team would get the ball first at the beginning of the second half, and Sean Arnold was able to make a big play on 1st down, and that drive would have a familiar ending at the end of it. We were up by 8 points late in the third quarter, and our offensive line was proving that they wanted to put this game away as Gene Green was able to get a huge play on 1st down leading to one of the biggest touchdowns of the season for him, but Texas A&M was taking some plays out of our playbook as our quarterback rolled to the right side answering back. We'd have a crucial 3rd down play on our next possession as we were looking to kill a clock, and Gene Green was able to find his guy on the left side to get the 1st down, and to put the game away on 3rd down he found Sean Arnold on the left side for another 1st down. That would go on to Gene Green having one of the best games of his career, and Dover was able to pull off the impossible as he won a national championship with Navy and was able to hoist up the coach's trophy. Please comment down below any other schools you want me to rebuild in the future.